This is what Islamic Republic wants me to be. This is what Taliban and ISIS wants us to be. And this is my true self. In Iran, I was told if I take off my hijab, I will be hanged with my hair by God. I'll get kicked out from school. I'll get lashes. I'll get jailed. I'll get fined. I'll get beaten up in the street every day by morality police. If I get raped, it's my fault. If I take off my hijab, I won't be able to exist as a woman in my homeland. In the West, I am told if I share my stories, then I will cause Islamophobia. I am a woman from the Middle East, and I am scared of Islamic laws. I am scared of all the brutalities that I have experienced.
You and me both, lady.
Phobia is an irrational fear, but my fear and the fear of millions of other women who lived under Sharia law in the Middle East is rational. So let us talk.
Yeah. Yeah. 12,000 plus dead over inside of Iran. Bodies are stacking up left and right. Trump is basically threatening to bomb Iran. Although concerns right now are that, it's basically not going to be a successful regime change. And if there is a successful regime change, politicians are just politicking over inside the White House while, thousands upon thousands of people are getting slaughtered. And this lady, along with me and everybody else, has a right to be concerned about the Islamic regime. They have over 10,000 people currently that they've arrested. They've ripped them out the hospitals, out of their hospital beds, and they're starting to hang them tomorrow. And we're talking about just a few hours from now, really, because right now I'm broadcasting from the United States, and it's, evening time here. Sun's going to be rising over there in just a little bit. This is what Iran looked like in 1979. Excuse me, prior to when the Islamic Republic took over. Iran used to be a lot like this. It used to be pretty chill. It used to be kind of friendly with the West. It used to be kind of friendly with a lot of different people. Here is what people used to be allowed to look like before they were threatened to get beaten and raped and killed by the morality police, hung in the street, and everything else. People have been living on this crap for decades, upon decades, upon decades. And just now, the world is starting to see what's going on over there. I'll show you guys one of these videos. This is one of the less graphic ones that I ended up sharing this morning. That number 12,000 arrested, 12,000 killed is an estimate. There's estimates from Israeli Mossad, allegedly, that came to the United States of America that said you had at least 5,000 that have been killed. And then we have Iran International that put the number over 12K. We've got all sorts of numbers that are coming out of there. But one thing's for sure, if you don't believe me, go watch the video that I ended up sharing this morning. It's 18 plus, so you got to be signed into your account in order to watch it. If you don't believe me, go look at the amount of dead bodies that are stacking up over inside of Iran. Like, I had to take a mental health break after that video, and there's a lot of them that I just wouldn't share, that I wouldn't put out because it's so freaking troubling. Look at that. That's a refrigerator truck for the bodies that are lined up outside of a hospital. They killed so many dang people. There's reports, and I'm going to show you. An image ended up coming out today of these guys taking dishkas. I was over on a space earlier, and they're telling me that they're literally rolling up to these crowds with dishkas and mowing people down. I mean, that freaking machine gun shoots a bullet the size of my thumb, pretty much. I've almost had one take my head off at one point in time. It's not fun to fight. But imagine not having a gun, being in a crowd, and having a 50 cal just ripping through a freaking crowd. That's what they're doing. That's what's going down. They're using belt-fed machine guns and mowing down these protester crowds. Isaac says, Iran kills thousands in the street. This is what libs claim the Trump admin does. 1, can the left now see what real fascism looks like? And 2, why are they so quiet on Iran? That's a very good question. I asked that very same question today over on X. Why is it? For years, this channel was reporting on what was taking place over inside of the Middle East. We were talking about Ukraine for years. Then we talked about Israel for years. And now that there is like a legitimate genocide taking place, they're silent. They are dead silent. And you want to know my personal belief? Because we're kicking out people right now. The main focus in the United States We're focused on Somalis and stuff like that over inside of Minnesota, who, if you didn't know, have a very radical population when it goes to Islam over inside of Somalia. It's not very good. Their track record's not great. Stuff like this happening. And I think they're dead silent because they refuse to accept the Islamification, like the takeover that's going on here in the United States of America. Rob Bertram coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Appreciate you, brother. Really, really do. Ozzy Mick says, click like and smile more. Dude, it's hard to smile when I've been staring at pictures of dead bodies all day. I'm not going to lie to you. Matt Borgeson, I think the big issue with most liberals don't want to be involved in geopolitics conflicts anymore. I can't understand that sentiment a little bit. Well, I mean, they're accusing Trump basically of orchestrating this entire thing. I think the figure I heard today for these bodies that you see being carried out of the hospital was $7,000 that the Iranian regime is charging. I heard a really ridiculous figure on Saturday. And so it's the second report that I've heard of it today. $7,000 for these bodies to be released back to the people. Because today, the Iranian regime went in, today our time, yesterday their time, went in and took over all of these dang hospitals over inside of Iran. And the reason you have such a high number is because the amount of wounded that have been sent to the hospitals that the regime has taken as prisoners, put on expedited kangaroo courts, and put up for execution, which is scheduled to start going down in just the next couple hours. Trump's currently in the White House. They had a meeting with the National Security Council. After the meeting, Trump was seen walking around, and then he ended up wandering back into the Oval Office, according to one White House reporter. And so they saw him going to the Oval Office. They gave him a report. Apparently, he's just sitting in there debating right now. And I guess the big debate would be, if we end up bombing them, are we going to create more instability in the region? Are we just essentially going to create another pocket for Islamic terror, or are the people actually going to be capable of rising up? And that's a decision that, quite frankly, I wouldn't want to make. Matt Borgeson said, didn't the USA want this to happen, though? Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, Trump's been talking about it all day. He's been talking about it all day. It's also something that the people over in Iran have wanted to happen because of things like this. The United States has been screaming for it to happen. And if you guys have missed my reporting on how all this ties in together, I would love to give you guys a good brief over here at the end of the show, why all of this ties together. But right now I'm going to focus on what's going on before I get into that portion. And I see a lot of you guys saying 20,000 dead. The truth is, nobody knows how many people are actually dead over inside of Iran. This is not an AI generated image. This is a real image. Very, very real. And it came from a video. The amount of bodies that are stacking up are insane. It's to the point where they've taken, and I showed it on this morning's stream, and I won't show it tonight because I just don't feel like making another video 18 plus, where they're taking like warehouses over in Iran and throwing all the crap over against the walls, and they're stacking the bodies in the middle of these warehouses because they can't take them to the hospital because then the regime would arrest them and then start hanging them tomorrow. So they can't do that. And so these people are literally just stacking bodies wherever they can. Doctors have left the hospitals and have set up different field hospitals for these protesters in order to get treatment after they end up getting shot. This morning, Donald Trump came out with this statement. He said, Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions, save the names of the killers and the abusers. They will pay a big price. I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until this senselessness of killings and protesters stop. Help is on its way. Make Iran great again, President Donald J. Trump. Now, he ended up putting that out, and I, probably like you, had assumed that he was made aware of all of these public hangings and stuff that were going to be taking place. But he wasn't. He ended up getting asked by a news reporter earlier today about it. Listen.
Now we're hearing that they're going to start hanging protesters tomorrow. So it comes back to the question, have they crossed your red line, or has the line moved?
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang them, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
How do you define that in Iran?
Well, let's define it in Venezuela. Let's define it with al-Baghdadi. He was wiped out. Let's define it with Soleimani. And let's define it in Iran, where it wiped out their Iran nuclear threat in a period of about 15 minutes once the B-2s got there. And that was a complete obliteration, as it turns out, which is what I said initially. Then some questioned it, and they said, Trump was right. So we've been right about everything. We don't want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not
going to work out good for him. Serious consequences. Sky God, I don't know if I give you appreciation for your 20 Speak the Truth memberships that you gifted out. My brain is shutting off at this point from all of the freaking madness that's out here. But thank you, sir, if you did. If I didn't yet, excuse me. I know you did. I can see it on my screen, but I forget whether or not I did. He put that truth post out about the time I woke up this morning. And then, obviously this takes place later. I forget what motor company he was running around and he gets asked that question by a reporter. And all the left media is saying is that Trump gave somebody the middle finger because they called him a rapist supporter, a pedophile or something like that. That's what they're focusing on. I haven't seen a single one of them bring this crap up. I mean, we're literally on the brink of bombing another nation. Not a peep other than Trump gave the middle finger to some frickin' to some guy working in the plant. That's what they're focused on right now. And it's not like it's the only time he said it today. And it's not like that's the only time he brought this up.
To all Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible, and save the name of the killers and the abusers that are abusing you. You're being very badly abused. If the numbers are right now, I hear 5 different sets of numbers. I hear numbers. Look, 1 death is too much. But I hear much lower numbers, and then I hear much higher numbers. But I say save their names because they'll pay a very big price. And I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. And all I say to them is help is on its way. You saw that I put tariffs on anybody doing business with Iran. Just went into effect today. And I say make Iran great again. It was a great country until these monsters came in and took it over. To all Iranian patriots.
So now he's running around screaming, make Iran great again. Good. Make Iran great again. But all the Iranians are screaming, where's Donald Trump? Because we've had thousands upon thousands of people massacred in the street. You said help is on the way, and public executions by hanging are about to start tomorrow. And that didn't stop them. They're still taking to the streets by the millions. They ain't going anywhere. They're still out there, and they're still like rioting in the streets tonight. Matt Borges has said, how insane would it be if the USA captured Mr. Khamenei? Well, it'd be great. It'd be great if they took the Ayatollah. It would be amazing. And he's got the authority to do it. A lot of people are wondering, in what direction can Trump go with this? We've got covert actions. We've got probably, CIA sources and all sorts of crap on the ground, non-kinetic type stuff as far as the United States is concerned that we could probably use to go over and take it. But a lot of people also forget that the Ayatollah controls the IRGC, a named, all right, documented, approved foreign terror organization of the United States of America. That gives this man the authority to do the same crap that he did to al-Baghdadi. The only problem is he's a religious leader, quote unquote. And the left would lose their mind if we took out a religious leader and we ended up smoking his butt for all of the atrocities that he's committed over the years. They'd lose it. They'd have an absolute heyday. Knack Dad, appreciate you coming in, gifting out your doll hair. Always there, always faithful, my friend. Really appreciate it. We need to kill this guy. Like, that's in reality what needs to happen. R. White says the real question is, how close are our carrier strike groups? That's a good question because we have been very, very silent about it. Very, very silent. The fleet tracker by the U.S. Navy is pretty blank right now over in the Middle East. And there's a bunch of freaking carrier strike groups that are missing off that sucker. So good question. We know we have a P-8 Poseidon that's been circling around over there. Lethal Old Fart says it looks like all of the attorneys at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota who were working on the Smalley fraud case all resigned today. Thank God. God bless. Yes, amazing. Tor 30A says control your cortisol with breathing 4 seconds in the nose. Hold 7 seconds, let out through the mouth for 8 seconds. Love your daily bandwidth is crazy. Love you. Appreciate you, man. And Devil You Don't Know coming in, gifting out 10 as well. Freaking Mosen says we need to at least get them some long guns. Yeah, I would agree with that. Iran today was urging Iraq to shut down their borders that are going into that country. And remember how I told you that it was first the Kurdish towns along the Iran-Iraq border that ended up being able to rise up and kick the regime out. You saw police forces kind of like roll over, and they were armed, and they're in gunfights presently with the regime. Commander Sergeant says, "Good evening, sir. I just found out I'm going to be a dad." Whoa! Congrats, brother! Amazing news, man. See, we need good news like that throughout the stream. Congratulations, sir. Yes. Always amazing, man. Bless you and your kid and your family. It's amazing. So, I don't think it's a surprise that ended up happening along the border. And I think maybe that's one of the things that would have happened. But the other thing that Iran came out and did, at least some of their commanders, was threaten Iraq and threaten basically to be launching a war should any militias or anything like that start crossing the border. And it's amazing. I see some of you guys saying as high as 50,000 is what you've heard. Now, honestly, the numbers are insane, and there's no way of really knowing what those numbers are going to be. So I played for you guys what Trump said at the beginning of the day with his tweet, and then his truth, and then he went out and he ended up, getting asked on television about the hangings. He had no idea. Ended up saying it's going to be a bad idea, bad retaliation, everything. When he ended up landing back over inside of D.C., he ended up getting asked here. I think it was Andrews Air Force Base. I forget. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Andrews where he lands. Bear with him for a hot second because he does his Trump thing where he rambles on and gets really off topic. But he gets back on there real quick.
So we had great numbers introduced today. We had a wonderful speech in front of great people in Detroit, mostly in the car business, and we're setting records in manufacturing. It's going very well. I think people appreciated what I had to say in terms of the numbers. So we're very happy about that. I'm going back to the White House now. We're going to look at the whole situation that's going on in Iran. It's really bad stuff. Minnesota is going to have to take care of itself for a little while. We have tremendous theft and fraud going on in that state because you have an incompetent governor, grossly incompetent governor, and a corrupt governor. But we'll straighten that out. But Iran is on my mind when I see the kind of death that is happening over there, we think. So we're going to get some accurate numbers. I'll have it in about 20 minutes. We'll get some accurate numbers as to what's happening with regard to the killing. The killing looks like it's significant, but we don't know yet for certain. I'll know within 20 minutes. So,
on sanctuary cities,
and we'll act accordingly.
That is a statement that didn't play out so good. He said, I'll know within 20 minutes and we'll act accordingly. Well, that was hours upon hours ago, and we still haven't heard a decision that comes out of there. John Collier says, we have an aircraft carrier over there, and it's called Israel. But he ain't lying either, man. We got the ability to launch a lot of crap from there. But I think Israel's taking care of its own problems. And Israel is greatly concerned. Iran came out today as well and ended up saying that now they're going to take the Israeli threat more serious. And I haven't really heard Israel talk about bombing Iran very much. I haven't. I've heard the United States talk about it. I've heard our congressman. I've heard the House or Foreign Affairs Committee come out and talk about it. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I haven't heard Israel talking about bombing Iran, or at least it hasn't popped up on my radar yet. Maybe it will. Trump also got asked about what he thinks because Iran came out and said, well, if the U.S. ends up bombing us, we're going to retaliate. Now, I saw a report that came out that said Iran's only got about 1/3 of the ballistic missiles and all that crap that they claim they currently have or that they built up since the 12-day war, that they only have really about 1/3 of what they claim. So they're not too worried about it. Iran's actually flapping out in the winds. They're begging China to help them. China is turning them down, called it laughable that they would actually help defend Iran.
Iran says that it will retaliate in the instance of U.S. strikes against U.S. assets in the Middle East. What do you say to U.S. service members about why it is worth the risk to intervene in Iran?
Yeah, Iran said that the last time I blew them up with the nuclear capability, which they don't have any longer. So Iran said that the last time. They better behave.
Iran says that it will retaliate in the
They better behave. That's what he told them. He said they better behave. They ain't behaving, Donald Trump. They're murdering people at a rate unseen before. Like probably the last time you heard of a murder rate this high was when they were accusing Israel of murdering people over inside Gaza. Only this time it's actually true with the amount of people that are actually dead. Confirmed, like, and it's not even confirmed. But I do believe the White House is well aware of how many people have actually been killed. And it's getting up there. House Foreign Affairs Committee. And again, if there's any updates that end up coming out on that, I'm over here reporting, doing my best to keep an eye on it. I'm a one-man show. So if something new comes out, y'all drop it in the chat and get my ears open on it. House Foreign Affairs Committee even put this out to the Iranian people. Ayatollah Khamenei has butchered your people, made the rial the weakest currency in the world, and squandered your country's resources. Make regime change inevitable. They're not playing at all. This is what the United States is tracking. The United States very much so wants a regime change. And I think one of you guys actually asked me about it and said, doesn't the United States want this to happen? Yeah, absolutely we do. With that, beyond the shadow of a doubt, we want to see regime change over inside of Iran. Weakens Russia, weakens China. They've been supporting Venezuela. They've been supporting terrorism over inside of Lebanon with Hezbollah, inside of Syria, down inside of Yemen, affecting international shipping routes, all sorts of crap, right? That this dirty regime has been up to. Not to mention, like, responsible for the deaths of thousands of Americans over the years. Yeah, we want the Ayatollah gone. We want the regime gone. I told you that China called Iran's request laughable. But no, the direct quote was pure fantasy. China actually called it pure fantasy for them to do anything, for them to intervene, to turn down Iran's request. Or, totally messed up your name. Boring J came in gifting out 10 Speak the Truth memberships. Hell yeah, brother. Now, this is probably one of the most ridiculous things that I saw come out today. You guys know that Australia ended up issuing out the evacuation order. The United States virtual embassy in Iran, because we can't have one there. The United States virtual embassy in Iran put out this warning today for all Americans to essentially leave the country immediately. Warning that protests are going to turn violent, resulting in injuries, increased security measures, road closures, blah, 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 blah. What I heard today was that the regime has set up checkpoints everywhere. And they are pulling people out of their cars, searching through them, looking for U.S. citizens, passports, all sorts of weird crap, killing people if they even think that they're even remotely close to protesting or connected with the protesters. Literally says, leave Iran now, have a plan for departing Iran that does not rely on U.S. government help. That is one of the U.S.'s big check marks right there. And this is probably the most concerning portion of it, is dual nationals. And again, how this is going underreported is beyond me, because this is one of the most shocking dang things I ever saw. The Iranian government does not recognize dual nationality and will treat U.S. Iranian dual nationals solely as Iranian citizens. Listen here. U.S. nationals are at significant risk of questioning, arrest, and detention in Iran. Showing a U.S. passport or demonstrating connections to the United States can be reason enough for Iranian authorities to detain somebody. If you are connected with the United States inside of Iran, you are at risk of detention, according to the United States government. It's so ridiculous when they go over and talk about border crossings. Depending on which one you're going across, they actually advise you to reach out and contact the embassy in order to coordinate that crap. Because if you haven't done these like on-foot border crossings, which more than likely people are going to have to do, you're going to have to cross through the Iranian side before you get into the other foreign country side, before you do it. So now, if you're a U.S. citizen over inside of Iran, which, by the way, they've been working on Starlink.
Great numbers introduced to.
Always with the ghosts. Always with the ghosts in the computer. The Iranian regime obviously shut off the internet. They shut off phone lines, and phone lines are sporadic from what I've heard, kind of working on and off today. So it's probably some sort of cyber crap United States, Israel, Western countries, whatever, are attempting to do, going back and forth over there, turning phones on and off. So phones are spotty, internet's still down. And today, the regime ended up jamming Starlink. Elon Musk came out and he said that SpaceX is currently working on it, trying to figure out a way to bypass it. He's got everybody like crammed in on it. And that came out just a few hours ago, and it is unknown whether or not that's actually up and working again. Adam DLC says, why is the U.S. the only ones concerned about Iran? Because we're the only ones not scared of being called Islamophobic. Go look at the UK, go look at the EU, look at all of that crap that's going on. You got to understand, over the last 2 years, 3 years, these nut jobs have all taken this like anti-Western, like coddle, radical Islam stance because of the pro-Palestinian movement. Think about it. Think about the streets over in the UK that have been taken over by Islamists. Think about what's taking place inside Texas. Think about what's currently taking place inside Minneapolis. God forbid we deport Somalis that are defrauding our government by the frickin' trillions. Billions, whatever. Adam DLC says, why is the U.S. the only one concerned about Iran? Yeah, my brain, dude, not working. It's just dying right now. That's why. In my opinion, that's why. Other countries are too worried because Trump talked about invading Greenland. There was, what is this dang? Randy Fine ended up putting out a statement yesterday, or a bill. He proposed a bill that used the verbiage annexation of Greenland. I mean, it's just ridiculous, some of the crap that's going on right now. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why. That is what the EU is focused on. Not a single peep out of the UN about this. Not a peep out of the UN about the thousands of people that have been slaughtered by the Iranian regime. Not a peep, dude. Freaking. They are working to turn on Starlink direct to cell, so they don't need terminals. Once that gets sorted out, comms will flow. Well, that'd be great if they actually do direct to cell. That would be amazing if they actually do direct to cell. I'm going to skip over the statement by Pavlani and just continue pushing up. The Gulf states, Qatar, obviously Oman, Saudi Arabia, they're all urging the United States not to bomb the crap out of Iran. Why wouldn't we do it is beyond me. But they're all urging the United States not to bomb Iran, not to start a war. Say what you will about Qatar. I don't like them. Never been a big fan. And today they're kind of showing their true colors. And Cog Faraday came in giving out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Qatar, one of the reasons they cited was because oil prices would go volatile the moment we start going after Iran. John Collier says, if you are in Iran, leave through Armenia. Abby says, all Somalis have to self-deport or they will be deported by my birthday. Happy birthday to me, apparently. That's right. They ended, what the heck is it called? The protected status, and there was something else that they just threw on there today. So yeah, they're all getting it. They're all getting it. Iran as well ended up going over and intercepting, apparently found a huge server, which is probably why you brought it up, or a big stockpile of Starlink servers. And the word on the street is, if you get caught with Starlink, you're basically going to get tried as a spy. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're apparently just SOL. But if you get caught with Starlink over in Iran, word on the street is that they're holding them as spies because, unauthorized communication. The regime shut the comms off. So they're going around rounding all the Starlink up and everything else, doing their best, and allegedly ended up jamming it. And hopefully Starlink does end up going like direct to frickin' cell or whatever, because unless you have a setup like this, mobile, like bless that man's soul, most people don't. But unless you have this setup, you're not getting connection, right? You're just not getting it. These guys managed to get it to work. A lot of people don't. And it's been jammed. And it's been jammed hard. And I'll tell you my personal experience with Starlink, like I'm glad he's got great speeds, but my butt, it didn't work. But apparently uploading videos and stuff is going to work great for them. But for the most people, it's kind of screwed. And I got a feeling Elon's going to figure it out. I mean, for crying out loud, Elon, the guy that wants to frickin' occupy Mars and impregnate women for his occupation, is figuring out. And hopefully that ends up happening. Now, with all of that said, none of that has deterred the people of Iran overnight, from taking to the streets en masse. This video I'm about to show you guys is coming out of Tehran. I want you to take a look before I even start it up. just try to count the dang heads that are on your screen. I want you to think about this. What I told you was true about the machine guns mowing people down. We've got the photos. We've got the videos of the bodies. Go back, look at the last stream from this morning. It's 18 plus. They've been mowing people down. Tomorrow, today, like hours from now, over inside of Iran, hours from now, they're scheduled to start hanging people. And it did not deter all of these people from taking to the street overnight over inside Tehran. Government's effectively lost control. I'm about to show you videos of them like literally overrunning freaking government compounds, chucking Molotovs, lighting buildings on fire. All of that was still taking place. Very little information has came out over the last 24 hours, though, because the way that they've ended up jamming the internet. I mean, they've shut the entire dang thing down over there. Here's one video of machine guns mowing people down in the streets. I want you guys to listen. These are guns talking in the background, mowing people down the streets of Iran. Now, you guys, in this video, you can clearly see the people on the street running down below. You can hear the guns, AKs going off and whatnot in the background there. And they're just gunning people down. And when and by the way, this is later on, clearly after crowds have dispersed, and they are just going around chasing people and shooting them in the dang back as they're running away. They're just gunning everybody down that's in the streets. Ayatollah, check this out. You ready for this? The Ayatollah has since been documented, allegedly on paper, as the one giving the order to do this. And that is why we've seen the numbers rise from over 1,000, maybe 3,000, to over 12,000 to 20,000 today. Because you've got the government troops that are in the streets just gunning people down. And the Ayatollah is directly implicated on paper. They ended up leaking out the order, sending it out, and now it's running around like it's going out of style. So he doesn't get out of this one at all. At all. And I don't think Trump realized how bad all of this crap legitimately was this morning. Dalton, C137, coming in with 10. He says, anyone thinks it's possible the Europeans won't help in Iran because we have been threatening no longer help Ukraine and direct conflict over Greenland despite already having bases there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. And I also think that the Europeans are filled with freaking estrogen, personally. I think they've had way too much estrogen. I don't even want to get into it. I had a conversation earlier about how a lot of even NATO forces are too scared to take action in the absence of orders, as to where it's built directly in to like the NCO creed for the United States Army. Like, I will take action in the absence of orders, right? Like these other military stand around, they wait and are told what to do. As to where we say, this is the commander's intent, we're going to kill everybody until we meet it. And that scares the hell out of these other nations. But they're too busy placating to Islamophobia and everything else. The same path the U.S. was running down before this year. Ricky Booz says, yours and my worst nightmare. Trump gets convinced to install all Jelani after all this. Sorry, just a nightmare I just had. Hopefully the prince gets... dude. No. As a matter of fact, I ended up, the Department of War put something out about Syrian government troops face off against Kurds today. And I lost it down in the chat. I was like, maybe this is something we should have thought about before we installed a freaking terrorist as the president of a foreign nation. And Cog Faraday says, brave people, they need your support and not in 2 weeks. I agree with you. And something that I talked about today in depth was you have to have and exercise tactical patience right now. You can't just randomly start dropping bombs over inside of Iran, hoping that it's going to end up changing things. You have to exercise some tactical patience over there. You have to wait for the right moment. There's probably trigger criteria, and it might not even be bombs. All right, if you were to take lessons from Ukraine and we look at what happened over inside of Russia, a lot of people are talking and saying, well, you know, Ukraine was the testing ground for the United States military and for all of these other nations and for the military industrial complex with bombs and all that. That was true for a little while. So many weapons were flowing into Ukraine for people just to try out and to kind of get the stamp of approval of, yes, this kills a lot of Russians, so that they could sell it to NATO troops and everything else, right? And then all of that support started to dwindle away. Ukraine had to get creative. And last year, when we saw the drone attack taking place over inside Russia, where you had semi-trucks pull up and open up and just send out swarms of drones and crap over in there, it's very possible that we see something like that happen over inside of Iran, only instead of going after airports and aircraft, that they actually go after people and that they start taking them out. So it is possible that we have assets like that, because let's be honest, after the 12-day war, the Iranian regime went around and was reining up Afghans and sending them back across the border into Afghanistan, ended up arresting a lot of people, accusing them of being Mossad agents and all of this other crap. And so God only knows the amount of assets we have in there. And I do pray to God that we have those assets in there in order to start doing that, because that's truthfully what they need right now. They need something of that nature taking it on. Adam DLC says, can't imagine the U.S. striking key cities with mass protests going on without risking civcas or civilian casualties. If anything, Iran could use this to launch their first strike. Well, Iran's going to use whatever happens right now. They're already blaming it on the U.S. They're already blaming it on Israel. And so they're going to end up, if there's rumors right now that I was reading over today that the Ayatollah just ended up going into hiding, that he's hiding underground and he's brought in some of his people. I saw a rumor a couple days ago that the Ayatollah went to an isolated military compound. So I'm seeing all of these different things. But it was also rumored during the 12-day war that the Ayatollah was injured in some of the bombings that Israel was doing, and that he almost got buried underground. And that's why he ended up going silent for so long, because he ended up getting injured before he ended up, I think it was weeks later, ended up coming out making his first public appearance. And so they're very worried right now that the Ayatollah is going to end up getting assassinated. And so it's possible that they moved him into an underground bunker. There's also rumors that a bunch of the regime officials were moving into hiding, that they're getting ready to flee the country, that they're loading airplanes with freaking money or whatever, probably trying to take off over to Moscow, go hang out with Jackson Hinkle. This is that video I was talking to you guys about people just, just watch. You just see Molotovs flying, baby. You see the gates coming down. This is security footage. And you know, this is what I love about it. It is clearly security footage. Not a snowball's chance in hell the Iranian regime ended up leaking this out to the world. No frickin' way. No way. No way. And people are saying that this movement, it's a small group of people, that it's tiny little, pockets of violence, it's everything. I really want you guys to pay attention to the amount of folks that we ended up having on the screen, right? Just a little bit ago, that were marching through the streets of Tehran overnight, right? Hours ago. It's from the night before, from what I can tell. And look at them, dude. You have so many people. Look at how violently that gate is shaking. That is just sheer willpower over there at them just violently shaking that gate. Look at the people down on the bottom. I saw a video the other day of people just, there's literally people that are trying to scream that this is a small group of dissidents, in that it's not like the country at large, that the country has support. Look at that street sign just being chucked up over the gate. Now they got it ripped open. That guy's just running and smashing windows. Now they're in, baby. It's like ants overtaking an area. Weak gate, dude. I mean, you need to spend some more time in the Middle East. Like, it's a lot of their garbage over there. Boom. Whole building goes up. This is probably one of the craziest dang things. And I told you guys, like, this is not ending. Once they end up paying that price in blood, it's not going anywhere. Yeah, they got some hardcore deterrents on the top of that fence. That's right. That's what happens when you oppress people. You got to be able to keep them out. You got to be able to keep them from rising up. You got to be able to keep them from killing everybody. That is the resolve of these people, man. Being mowed down in the streets and everything else. And I told you I got videos of bodies to show you guys. I want you to keep in mind that they're doing all of that while this stuff's taking place. It's outside of a hospital. And just body bags after body bags. There's several videos like this that have ended up making their way out. And I've taken some of the less graphic ones in order to show to you guys. Oh, come on. I ended up taking some of the less graphic stuff out there in order to show to you guys. And there's people that are looking at these and some of these bodies that are stacked up, and they're trying to scream that a lot of this is AI or it's staged or it's all made up. It's absolutely not. This reporter allegedly traveled hours upon hours in order to get these out. He was running around taking all these photos and then traveled hours to be able to get internet access to upload these today. And so these are just a couple images of what he was able to capture. He said, this reporter claimed that he saw thousands of bodies. Thousands. This one reporter in his one day running around Iran, thousands. This one guy. Adam asks, in your opinion, when does the U.S. strike by? When does the U.S. strike start? Dude, I have no idea. I would like to think it's imminent. I would like to think that right now, over top of Iran, the U.S. has some of its spy satellites that's observing the IRGC. It's observing the regime as they go around and they set up, they set up these cranes to hang people in the streets. That's what I would like to think. And I would like to think as they're setting those up, the U.S. starts sending a message the moment they set those up and starts just bombing them into oblivion. That's what I want to think. That's what Matt would like to see happen. What actually happens, I couldn't tell you. Because reportedly out of the White House today, after their National Security Council briefing, was a mixture of opinions. A mixture of opinions of, if we do this and it doesn't succeed, what is going to happen? If we have a failed state, if we have a failed nation, if we fail to overthrow the government, if we fail to install a good leader, then we could have another huge pocket of violence. We could have another huge security vacuum that allows radical Islam to fester. Because you got to remember, we just theoretically ended what was taking place over inside Syria and all of that radical Islamic violence. I'm telling you right now, these people will flock. I saw reports of pro-Iranian groups that were gearing up to go into Iran from Iraq to start fighting and killing protesters on behalf of the regime. That's also happening. And so if you've got people gearing up to go over and start fighting the regime or fighting with the regime to kill protesters, imagine what's going to happen when the regime falls. Those are all things that they have to take into consideration. And so they have a very real concern. And I'm assuming what the president's sitting and poring over right now is, if I do this, what are the odds that this happens? And then there's his own convictions after seeing these photographs. I guarantee you the president's seen this crap. Guarantee you he's seen a lot worse than this. I guarantee you that he's seen like live feeds of these people getting gunned down by these freaking machine guns and whatnot in the street. Guaranteed. And the question is whether or not he's going to have the resolve to actually do something about this. Taking out the Iranian regime wouldn't just affect Iran. It would affect the stability in the Middle East and global restructuring, to be quite honest, when we look at how Iran has been used by both Russia and China. And so he's got a heavy, heavy, heavy burden weighing on his shoulders right now. Tahoe guy says Trump needs to arm the protesters. I'd agree. I would tend to agree with you. You know, during World War II, we ended up going in and dropping a bunch of the little 40 caliber like liberation pistols that were like just stamped out of nothing for people to just run around and pop people. And maybe the United States needs to bring that back. Maybe we just need to find our stockpile of those old 45 caliber freaking stamped pistols. I forget what the hell they were called, man. Were they called Liberators? I feel like they were called the Liberator. Some of you guys are going to know. I know there's some gun aficionados. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Liberator pistols. I was right. Look at that. We need to go start dropping those suckers in there with like a couple cases of ammo. And the purpose of that, and we use them over inside France, several other places. And the idea is that it was a one-shot pistol, but it gave you the ability to acquire another one. Imagine what would happen if we started dropping those suckers off over inside of Iran. Imagine how quickly that would change. I showed a video this morning of protesters that were just getting in a fight and beating the hell out of guys in riot gear over inside of Iran because all they had was their big swagger sticks, like their wooden like swagger sticks, their night sticks, just beating the crap out of dudes, with them. And then you saw these hordes of protesters just going over and just kicking them. Showed somebody from I don't know, somebody loyal to the regime. I am hard pressed to tell you what side of the regime he works for, that had been stomped and kicked to death and then had his body lit on fire. If we gave these people those pistols, dude, they would do some serious damage. And from what's being said is there is a whole plethora of options that are currently on Trump's table. Some of them could be something of that nature. Some of them could be arming a resistance movement. Some of them could be cyber options, turning on all the frickin' phone lines, targeted assassinations, like all sorts of crap. But you got to keep in mind, too, that we also made the mistake back in the day of arming the Taliban. All right, now Iran is a hell of a lot different than Afghanistan. You've got people over here that are burning their hijabs, dancing in the streets, like doing all sorts of stuff because look at them, murdering them left and right. There's people that are saying that after this, you're going to have a huge civil war. After this whole thing's over, well, what's next? You're going to have Kurds that are going to try to separate. You're going to have people that are going to try to go one way or another. All that might be true. You might have Kurds do that. You might have some infighting that takes place because there is certain, I guess, sects, if you will, of the Kurds that want to separate and have their own territory. Other people are like staunch nationalists that are over within there. There's undoubtedly going to be some infighting when stuff like this takes place. But at the end of the day, what Trump has to ask himself is whether or not this regime being in power is better than anything else that could possibly happen. That's really what's going to weigh his decision. If I end up leaving the Ayatollah in charge, and you got to remember too, he's got his underlings underneath him. They've got all their little underlings. So you got to take out a lot of people in order to make that happen. And you screw any part of it up, the whole op's done. Freaking Mosen says, sat to sell worked great 70 miles offshore in the Gulf last month for me. Hope it gets enabled there. If so, big win. I've never tried it, but if it does work, man, that's absolutely amazing because the amount of stuff, like you think this is bad? Dude, you should have heard some of the people describing what the streets of Tehran were. Dude, they said that there's so much, and I get that people exaggerate things, but when we're talking about 10, 20,000 dead in a matter of like 2 days being murdered by crew-served weapons, they said that the streets were so covered in blood that it was essentially a giant slip and slide, right? That it was like walking on ice. There's so much dang blood out there. That is how bad this has got. NG Comrade, giving it 5 euros. He says, we don't need to arm random protesters. The Kurds already have militias that fought with us against ISIS, fighting the IRGC based on the KRG Iran border. Yeah, right. You're talking about a small group of people. And that is a hell of a lot of distance away from Tehran. That is a hell of a lot of distance away from Mashhad. Iran is a huge freaking country, man. Huge, huge country. And you're talking about a lot of people that are getting killed out there, man. A lot. A lot. This is what people are concerned about. How do we stop this from happening? And that's exactly what he's weighing in on. Because if he can't come up with a good answer, dude, I don't know what to tell you, but this is just going to continue on. It really is. And it's going to get worse. Those public executions, those public hangings are not going to quell the violence. It is going to cause even more. Way more. And when the regime sees that that doesn't work, it's going to keep going. It's going to go even harder, and it's going to go harder, and it's going to go harder. The Ayatollah being in power isn't good for Iran. It is not good for the West. It is not good for America. It's not good for global stability. It's not good for the Middle East. It's not good for international trade, for crying out loud. You know you've screwed up when you've got Zelensky even coming out saying what is happening in Iran now, large-scale protest, effectively an uprising, is a clear sign that things won't be easier for Russia. Remember how I told you guys that it's all tied together? I honestly think that if it wasn't for the war in Ukraine right now, and if it wasn't for the actions by Russia, if it wasn't for the actions by China, the United States would not be taking part in this. But I think because of the actions of Russia, because of the actions by China, the U.S. has to look at this very, very hard. And Zelensky right there makes the connection for all of you guys, just like I have in the past. It's a clear sign that things won't get easier for Russia. And every decent person on this planet truly wants the people of Iran to finally free themselves from the current regime that's brought so much evil to Ukraine and to other countries. It is crucial that the world does not miss this moment when changes are possible. Every leader, every country, and international organizations must step in now and help the people remove those guilty of what Iran has sadly become. Everything could be different. Love Zelensky, hate him, I don't care. But what the man just said in his statement right there is there's not a single lie detected. The Iranian regime has been instrumental for Russia in their fight with Ukraine. They have been instrumental for China. They've been instrumental funding terrorism over inside Lebanon. They've been instrumental in funding the Houthis over inside of Yemen, shutting down international shipping lanes. They've been instrumental to Hamas in launching of the attack on October 7th. And Russia has been instrumental as well with Hezbollah. It is one thing if the people inside your country are up and riding. It is completely different when you lose control of your embassies abroad. Completely and totally different when you lose control of your embassies abroad. This is over inside of Australia. They ended up ripping down the regime's flag and replacing it in Australia. And you could see the embassy security staff just letting it happen, where people are not getting killed for standing up against the regime in foreign nations, where you can't hide the internet, where you can't hide what's happening, even on their own sovereign territory, which embassies are considered. That flag's falling. The regime is falling abroad. It's not just Australia either. I told you guys I saw one over inside of the UK. This is Germany.
اینا باش اونا تو اومدیم داخل بله بچه ها داخلن ماشاءالله ماشاءالله باریکلا پرچم ننگین جمهوری اسلامی رو آوردن پایین پرچم جمهوری اسلامی رو آوردن پایین شیر بچه ها باریکلا باریکلا جاوید شاه جاوید شاه اینجا جاوید شاه جاوید شاه
Adam DLC, sir, you are correct. This will not be a 12-day war. It'll be the last stand for Iran. They will not give up. They will not go quietly into the night. They will not tuck tail and run. You're talking about a radical Islamic terror organization that has powers of a nation. Ballistic missiles, jets, aircraft, all sorts of crap. Backed by major superpowers in the world. If we're even going to consider Russia a superpower at this point, because they couldn't even manage to take over Ukraine. If we're going to consider them a superpower. And China's laughing at him. China wants nothing to do with it. So the question really is what's going to happen? And to be quite frank with you, every single one of you guys can wake up tomorrow morning. U.S. could be bombing Iran. Lots of people can be dead. I'm going to stay awake for a couple of hours just to observe what the United States does. Because again, Trump, last I heard, sitting in the Oval Office right now, trying to come up with something. Trying to come up with an answer to this entire situation, which I don't think anybody has. Meanwhile, America could give two craps less. EU could give two craps less. Everybody's busy watching illegal aliens get deported and white women getting shot in the face for trying to hit cops with their car. I honestly couldn't tell you what's going to happen, but I do know it's going to happen soon because we're running out of time. Biggest problem that Trump faces right now is the momentum of this protest falling off. And if that momentum, if for some reason the Ayatollah is successful in killing all of these people tomorrow and causing these uprisings to trail off, it's going to be an issue. And another thing's for dang sure, they also need the military. Pizza trackers freaking lighten up like it's going out of style. I don't follow the pizza tracker. I don't care about the pizza tracker. I follow what's actually taking place because that allows me to know what the hell is happening. So I highly suggest you guys are following the channel with your notifications turned on because when this goes down, I'm going to be here. Are you coming back on if it kicks off? Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to stay up for a while. I do need to get some rest. I am a human being for crying out loud, but I have no problem sitting up for hours if the United States starts bombing the crap out of Iran. I might just put on a freaking live feed and just walk away so that I can take like meal break or something. I don't know. I'm a one-man show, but yeah, I'll be back. I'm going to sit up for a while and just wait to see what ends up happening. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you might feel helpless. You might feel like there's nothing that you can do. One of the spaces I was in earlier, people were like feeling it inside because they were, they have family members, they have friends, they have all of these people that are getting gunned down. But the one thing that I would tell you is to remember that God's in charge. So calm down. All right. If you're going to be a person of faith, now would be that time. All right. To allow these things to take place, to allow, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Pray for your leadership, pray for the country's leadership, pray for as much as humanly possible. All right. And in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, as always, peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I'm out of here.